board meeting to order on Monday, October 27th, 2025. And we are going to start.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on, we're going to have the reading of our mission statement.
High Point Academy's mission is cultivating lifelong learners in a student-centered environment.
Our vision statement. High Point Academy's vision is to be an exemplary school of choice for academically minded families.
I would do 3 R's. At High Point Academy, we practice the 3 R's. Rights, the right to a quality education, the right to a safe environment, the right to reach our potential. Respect. I will respect my classmates. I will respect my teachers. I will respect myself. Responsibility. I am responsible for my education. I am responsible for my actions. I am responsible for my opportunities.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we're just so thankful for this opportunity that we have here tonight to serve High Point Academy. I just pray that you can just be with the teachers and the staff and the students in a special way, especially be with us tonight as we have this meeting. We just pray that you will guide us in all that we do and say. We ask this in your name.
And we'll need to move for approval of the meeting agenda with the exchange that we are going to do September minutes next. I'll move for approval of the meeting agenda as amended.
Second.
Moving on to first business.
All right, Grizzly Spotlights. You're up first, Miss Lester.
I am.
You got a lot to share with how many people.
Well, we're celebrating a little bit differently. We did not invite all of these people here tonight, but we're celebrating a group and not just individual students. These are all of the elementary students. There are 54 students who had perfect attendance for the first 9 weeks. And this perfect attendance also means they had no tardies and they had no early dismissals. So this is here from bell to bell. We're very excited about that. 54 is a great number. And of course, kudos goes to all of those parents because our students don't drive themselves. So I'm very excited to share that list. So just take a look at all of those things. That's kindergarten through 5th grade. And we're very proud of them. And that will definitely show in their academics that they have been here every day.
So I'm excited to share with you guys the young man that's on the screen. The one thing that I want to say about Lucas before I talk about his achievement is that if you don't have the opportunity to get to know him, it is because he is probably one of the kindest kiddos that we have in our school. He constantly smiles if you kind of pull him out of it. Usually you get a stink eye. And if you had a conversation with him, you probably would think, man, he's very shy. And he is very shy, but in a very positive way. I've never heard Lucas say a hurtful word to anyone. He is always one of those kiddos that if I need the truth about something, I can go and ask Lucas, but bless his heart, he'll turn 50 shades of red. Like he just can't, he's like, please don't ever call me out, Miss Midland. So I'm so proud that he came tonight because I was afraid that you would try to get out of coming because I was like, I need Lucas to be here. But Lucas scored the maximum score on the 2025 South Carolina Ready math portion. And that achievement in itself, he is the only 8th grader that I have that did that. And you see, we don't have anybody for the ELA side of it. So Lucas, come here and get your certificate, please, sir. I'll introduce you. Robinson write something up for me because there's so much to tell about the Hope Squad. So I want you to know that it's coming from her, and there's so much to know, and a lot of people know that we have the Hope Squad, but don't know what it's about. So I wanted to get details from her. So tonight, the high school would like to recognize HPA's Hope Squad for their recent contributions in promoting suicide awareness and prevention. This group meets weekly on Wednesday afternoons to receive training on how to report and refer students who may be struggling with their mental health to trusted adults in the school. Licensed advisors are high school teachers Kesha Robinson and Holly Pearson, who teach members a process called QPR, which means to question, persuade, and refer. While in the meetings, these advisors teach lessons from the licensed curriculum purchased for us courtesy of Christopher's Hope Foundation. After each lesson, members conduct role plays, participate in discussions, brainstorm ways to positively impact the school, organize events to foster inclusivity and hope among their peers. They also share concerns as needed, since they are the eyes and ears that help us get resources to students who may be showing signs of struggle but don't know where to turn. This month, the Hope Squad was asked to conduct a bake sale at the Out of the Darkness Walk hosted by American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at Cleveland Park on Sunday, October 12th. We are thrilled to announce that there were 16 members who participated in the bake sale and the walk, and because of their fundraising efforts, the HPA Hope Squad raised $1,137 to give back to the ASFP, making High Point Academy one of the top teams this year by placing 7th out of 36 teams. Tonight, we want to recognize the top 3 fundraisers, in addition to 3 students who went above and beyond with their participation in the walk by organizing, setting up, assisting with the sale, and cleaning. And I only see one here, but it's okay. Hannah, will you come join me? Hannah Sanders. Stay with me if you want to, Hannah. You're recognized. I'm alone up here. Maybe somebody. Also, Mackenzie Foster, Mariel Tabernetti, Pepper Erskine, Madden Coy, and Matthew Lee. Last little bit that I want to share, but it's very, very important. 3 of these members have been invited to attend a conference called Circles of Hope at Winthrop University on Friday, November 7th. And they will each have a seat at the table with legislators across the state to share how our school is combating the mental health crisis in our country. Pepper, who is the Hope Squad's president, Matthew and Maddie, who is Hope Squad's vice president, along with Ms. Robinson, have been invited to participate in this all-day event in an effort to gain more funding for other districts to follow suit in implementing Hope Squads across the state. And Ms. Robinson's direct quote, and I think you should know that this is from her, "What an exciting opportunity for us to be recognized as an exemplary school model for what Hope Squad represents and have the chance to share our successes, proving that together with the support of administration, we are making a difference by spreading hope and saving lives." So thank you for all that you do. And I also want to say that the Hope Squad team has just had their nominations and approvals for 51 students to be a part of it. And that's a huge gain of like 12% of the high school. So really excited about that. Thanks, Hannah.
We're moving on to school business. You're welcome to stay. We will gladly have you, but if you feel like you want to go eat dinner, enjoy your family, you're also welcome to go this time. Congratulations. Yeah, awesome being here.
Charlie. This way. I'll shut it down. Thank you, team.
We are moving on to our September 2025 financial report and information report. We have
We can't hear you, Chance.
I do put one on. I can hear him, but I can't follow his. We're working on it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Everybody let me know when you see it.
got it.
All right. So here is our, and then again, let me know if the slides aren't progressing like they did last time. So our September 2025 financial presentation. Did it move forward?
Yes.
Okay, great. So again, just like last month, our agenda is going to be a financial snapshot. We'll look at our cash and cash equivalents. We'll talk briefly about our enrollment and funding update since we did get our 5-day count funding in our September payment. We'll talk about debt service coverage that we would anticipate for fiscal 26 and days cash on hand, which are 2 bond covenants. We'll talk about some key takeaways again in summary, and then a Q&A session. So in September 2025, we had revenue of a little over $1.5 million, and expenditures of $1,512,000, which gave us a net surplus of $38,000. The revenue for September did increase. We talked last time, our last session, about how July and August of this fiscal year were funded based on our fiscal 135, fiscal 25 135-day count. And so we received additional funding in September that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But overall net surplus for the month of September of a little over $38,000 is a very solid month. Cash and cash equivalents at September 30th were almost $5.5 million. Operating cash of 1.4. The money market account's a little over $250,000, and our investment account is up over 3.8. So at $5 million, roughly almost $5.5 million, we'll see pretty soon that it's about 127, 128 anticipated days cash on hand at that figure. So enrollment and funding update, again, I always want to talk briefly about this slide. Our 135-day enrollment count at fiscal 2025 was 1195. And the last conversation I had there with Mr. Sherman and Gray is I think we are over 1,300 still. Is that correct?
45 ADM was
1301, which is, again, on the right side of the slide over here, I had in there that we were anticipating 1,250 plus 1,300 is a great number. We did budget based on $4,300 per weighted pupil unit. We can get into that calculation at some point, but it's really basing the budget on 4,300, but the weighted pupil unit money coming in at 4,311 means we budgeted fairly conservatively on our dollars per weighted pupil unit, and we should have substantial additional weighted pupil units because the enrollment's over 1,300. Our debt service coverage ratio, we budgeted for 1.25. We are, from what I am anticipating with enrollment of 1,300 and seeing that the weighted pupil unit revenue holding around a little above the 4,300, certainly on pace to exceed the 1.25, most likely also on pace to exceed the 1.5 as well. We'll talk about how fiscal 25 ended in terms of where the school ended on the fiscal 25 audit. But the unrestricted cash that we looked at earlier is about $5.5 million, and at a daily cash burn estimated at about $43,000. That's 128 days cash on hand. The requirement there is 45, so significantly higher than the covenant. So Takeaways for this month: in September, we had a $38,281 surplus. Year to date, we have a $169,000 surplus. Cash and cash equivalents at September were about $5.5 million. Enrollment was 1195 on our 135-day count. Now, our September funding increased $125,000. And that was largely due to the fact that we had significant additional students, a significant additional enrollment at our 5-day count. And that's when funding kicks in, is September through December is on our 5-day count. Our 45-day count, additional revenue will kick in from January through April of 2026. And days cash on hand, estimate current at the moment is 128. So on the September numbers, do we have any questions, concerns?
We're happy to see those numbers.
I am too. So it's always good to be able to give good, really give a good report. I don't know if it has on there on the agenda for us to kind of talk briefly about the audit.
It does.
Okay, great. So we'll move right on into the audit. So I'm going to share my screen once again. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple things on this audit that were a little different from the prior year. First off, we did get our audit submitted on time, which was great. Also in the prior year, we did have with our fiscal 24 audit as it was originally submitted, I did some agreed upon procedures work that got the numbers restated to essentially showing that the school did meet a 1.11 debt service coverage ratio for fiscal 24. But one of the things I always like to look at is that we did have this financial statement finding in fiscal 24. Now, what this financial statement finding is just essentially saying that, there were significant adjustments that had to be made after the audit was originally done. And after, without those adjustments, the financial statements would have been significantly misstated. So the recommendation that the auditors gave here was implemented, and the status section here at the very bottom does indicate the finding is not repeated in the current year. So we had no financial statement findings for fiscal 25. And let's look at the numbers really quickly. So this is where this section right here, our statement of revenues and expenditures, is really where I have the majority of the conversations with the investors when we have our annual call. And it's largely because a significant bond covenant, there are two that the school really needs to meet. One is the days cash on hand, the other is the debt service coverage ratio. And just so we can all kind of see here, we have this line here at the bottom with our excess art deficiency is what's initially used to calculate that. And so taking our full 46,988 and then adding to that the 159,162, which is capital outlay, which is right here. And then we also get to add back our debt service, 143,750.09, and the 495,000 gives us $2,538,659. What is called net income available for debt service. Very, very solid number, because what we also do is we take our debt service of 1,932,509, and we take our 2 million. Oh, geez. I think I just erased that. We'll try one more time. 446,988, 159,162, 143,750.09, and 495,000. That number divided by our 1,932,509 gives us a 1.31 debt service coverage ratio for fiscal 2025. The covenant is a 1.1, so that does show that the school not only met the minimum debt service coverage ratio, but also exceeded that. And it's looking in fiscal 26 that the school's also going to exceed the 1.1 required debt service coverage ratio. Lastly, what the investors are concerned about is our days cash on hand. So to do that, we just take our total expenditures. We get to subtract a couple things, which is nice. We get to subtract principal payments and we subtract capital outlay. Those are the two items we get to subtract. And then we take that number divided by 365 and we get $43,111. That is essentially every single day. That's the daily cash burn for the school. That's what it takes to operate the school every day. And so what the investors are concerned with is to say, okay, how many days do we have in available unrestricted cash? So if I take our 5,284,698 right here, cash and cash equivalents, and if I take that and divide it by our 43,111, I get about 123 days rounded up, days cash on hand. Again, covenant there is 45. So very strong liquidity position, very strong position in terms of operations, and the budget for fiscal 26 looks like the school is going to exceed or outperform the budget that was originally done in fiscal 26. Enrollment is higher, and we budgeted conservatively with the revenue per weighted pupil. So very solid audit. No findings for fiscal 25. The school met both covenants, and with the 131, which is a little higher than we originally anticipated, we'll be able to go to Moody's and have a conversation about the bond rating for the school, so that can get reevaluated. Any questions on the audit or the September financials?
Where is the audit? We usually get a digital copy of it.
Gray, do you or Stephanie have a digital copy of that?
I think that needs to be given to the board, please. We need to be able to look at the audit itself.
That the finance committee showed.
Yeah, the finance committee does have it. We reviewed it, yeah. Okay, so the information I get to you.
How did we submit the audit before the board?
Because of the deadline. That's what we're supposed to approve today.
But we already submitted the audit. Seems backwards. I think the last board meeting we talked about just like.
I'm still here.
Will you stay on the line, because I need your help in just a minute.
Sure.
Moving on to school business superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. All right, where are we? All right, we'll start with our quote. Nick said you probably haven't heard of him. He's a used car salesman. Seemed like a really good quote, so we thought we'd go with it. But, so before we move on, I want to take this time to do an introduction. Miss Sarita Edgerton is our House representative, and she is with us tonight. She joined us for supper and is with us tonight. She had a fun visit about a week and a half ago. She came and stayed 3 or 4 hours with us and visited classrooms and talked with us, and had a really good time with her. And I'm just really pleased that she came tonight, and she's taking an interest in our school. I think we're the only high school in the area, is that correct?
Yeah, because I don't think Green Charter has high schools.
No, they have no school.
And then I have whatever the upper stars, whatever the MVP or global, yeah, I have that
Global
one too.
Academy. So we're the only high school she has, and we're by far the biggest school she has. So we're very grateful for you being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, moving on. Where are we? All right, Chance, I hope you're still online because I may need you for this. I want to talk real quickly about this report that came out on October the 15th. Board members, I've sent this to you. Did you all get a copy of this? How many of you read it? How many of you read 20 pages? So I don't know what you're talking about.
I reviewed
I
it.
still.
So, after reading it closely, I had Gray read it. I read it. We read it a couple times, and then I sent it to Chance, and Chance is going through it, and he actually understands it. But After looking at this report, some glaring problems came. This report was done at the bequest of SCASA and some big districts in the state. They wanted to look at this whole funding formula. The funding formula is very complex. It is made up of your total count. It is made up of weighted pupil units, which could be kids with disabilities. It could be GT. It could be a lot of different things. Pupils in poverty. All those things are, every school district gets weighted for that. 4 years ago, the state legislature put in an additional weight for charter schools because they get no additional local revenue funding. So this report was written because some people think that the charter schools are getting too much money, and they didn't think they needed the additional weights in the formula, so they wanted to separate it out and go back to funding us like they did in the proviso 4 or 5 years ago before this was changed. So there are 3 major issues here that we have, and I'm going to talk about it, and then I'm going to let Chance go into. Go ahead and the first one, Katie. The biggest issue that I see here is separating charter school funding from our current allocation. Now, charter schools will get the same base funding as every public school, but will get no additional weighting. This is what happened 5 years ago, and all leftover money goes into a charter school account and is divided amongst the charter schools, which is what they did years ago. Go to the next page, please, Katie. So we're not guaranteed the same amount of money year after year, and charter schools are growing about 33% a year. And as schools grow, the funding is spread thinner and thinner, and multiple authorizers, meaning that number is unpredictable. So there's no way to tell how many will grow. Chance, do you want to say anything about that issue?
Yeah, that's more than just not being able to understand where the funding might land. It creates issues around being able to forecast and budget is the largest concern. Because, right now we kind of can put our finger on what we think the dollar amount per weighted pupil unit is that we can anticipate, but without that ability to kind of anticipate what that would be, makes the budgeting aspect of things very difficult.
So, Chance, correct me if I'm wrong, we would probably not find out our budget till June or right at the end of the cycle. Is that correct?
Correct. And then there's some thought that would end up adjusting annually. And if you look at so I have a report an analysis of this report that will show that, if you look at from fiscal 21 through fiscal 24, I think this actually goes through fiscal 25, but the growth in charter schools, average daily membership is about 39%, and then the growth in the public schools is actually very minimal. It's like right at 1%. So there has been significant growth there. And if the funding's only evaluated and changed once annually, you could have a school that has significant enrollment growth and they don't have any change in their funding until essentially an entire fiscal year down the road. So that makes, funding additional positions, instructional positions, support positions, additional facility concerns around the greater enrollment a challenge without the revenue and without the funding being adjusted more than just once annually.
So that was issue 2, Katie, if we go to that. Issue 2 is using the 135 ABMs from year to year. Last year we had 1194, we had 1301. It's actually 93 student difference, but it's over $1 million in operating capital that we would have lost this year if we would have used just the ABM from the 135 count. We cannot operate losing $1 million. We cannot educate the students we have here if the state went to this method. Go to the next page, Katie. Okay, so why is the need to change the formula? Well, some large school districts think charter schools get too much money from the state when they get pay raises. Last year, the state gave $192 million to the districts for pay raises, but since charter schools have an extra weight, they got a little more percentage. And so the school districts got upset about it, and they went to SCASA. SCASA produced an article which pretty much made the legislators, I don't know which legislators, probably those who make all the money decisions, to have this report actually printed up, and it was released on October the 15th. In the article, if you read this article, you can stomach it, several times throughout the article, they talk about wanting fairness. Okay, they talk about fairness. So go to the next page. If we want to talk about fairness, means that charter schools would receive local funds. On the average, charter schools receive 6,000 less than public school districts on the average across the state. Could be more or less in certain places. If we were to get half of that allocation, with an ADM of 1301, we would get an additional $3,903,000 this school year. If we got half of what everybody else gets for us. Full 6K would be an additional $7,806,000. Chance of salivating as I talk. But if that were the case, I could do the ball fields in 2 years. Next year, I could give raises to our teachers and have the highest pay in the county. And in 5 years, I could renovate the entire building. Within 10 years, we could do all of that and pay off our bond and be debt free. If we were treated like all other public schools. So when they talk about fairness, we really got to stop. So go to that per pupil report, Katie, real quick, because I want to show you some things, how unstable funding is throughout the county. Go to Charleston. You may have to make it a little bigger for once you get there. So if you look at Charleston County, look at that bottom number on the right-hand side of that box. That is what Charleston gets per pupil per year, $26,289 per pupil per year. We got less than $12,000 per pupil per year. This report is, I got it straight from the federal government page. It's on Curtis Loftus' page. It's a revenue report. It's not a secret. Anyone has access to it. But if you look, Charleston County, now go to Spartanburg County. Just go to Spartanburg 7. I think, Board, you got a copy of this as well. It's a really good read. But if you look at Spartanburg, they get $21,694 per student. If you will look, their federal revenue is quite large. And look at their local revenue. Their local revenue outweighs their state revenue by $10 million. You see that? So if they want to talk about fairness, when you get more money from the local than you do from the state, and you're complaining about state funds, it's really a picky subject for me, because this doesn't lie. These are numbers reported by Tax Revenue Office. Now, the only thing not reported in here are if people have their own bond and voted their own tax. 5 school districts in Spartanburg County have a bond bringing in another $2,000 to $3,000 per student per year. It's not on this report. And Spartanburg 7 is one of them. They just go to $300 million high school. So these are the issues that they talk about. We need to changing the formula needs to be fair across the board. Chance, do you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, well, you said a whole lot there. There's the analysis that I've done really echoes exactly what you just said. I mean, this statewide charter schools handle about a little over 7% of the entire population in terms of enrollment. Federal per pupil, traditional districts get about double, but you're talking only between $500 to $1,000. But the big number is in the total dollars per pupil. Over the statewide charter districts, the average across every charter school, it's about $12,926 versus $18,447 on average, inclusive of everyone in the entire state, regular school districts and so public school districts and charter schools. That difference of roughly $5,500 times the $1,195 that this school ended fiscal 25 turns up. I mean, that's about $6.6 million in revenue. One of the things that I'll be highlighting in my analysis of this report is to further hammer home the fact that charter schools do get that additional weight and additional allocation because they don't have access to the local tax revenue. And the additional weight that they get, which ends up populating on this report an additional state dollars per pupil for charter schools, it's dwarfed when you look at the local per pupil that public school districts regularly get. So that's the largest. And then again, to Mr. Sherman's point around the bond financing, I mean, charter schools have to fund everything: facilities, support, instructional, administration, every aspect of operations out of a much, much lower number. And if charter schools are removed from the allocation, with the base funding and they're having their weighted pupil units factored into this revenue allocation as it exists currently at the moment, it could create a revenue shortfall, and even $100 to $200 per pupil in a revenue shortfall could make some of those margins we've been looking at earlier in our call become razor thin, if margins at all. And so it really is going to be something that's going to cause, especially if the funding is only going to be adjusted or changed once annually, it causes some of the schools to be able to not be able to grow as they have in the past. Because you can imagine some schools that have grown by a couple hundred pupils in a fiscal year, they're not going to be able to fund that enrollment, that additional enrollment with the revenue that's allocated there. So, the answer in my mind is either to keep charter schools in the current mix and then also set aside some money for growth, in like similar to how their money is set aside in the Hold Harmless Fund, or we could certainly change things around to where maybe charter schools could have access to the local tax funding. That seems about fair to me. But we've got I think right now I have a kind of an analysis of the report that's out there, an analysis that's going to include both some points from that report and also some points from the report that Mr. Sherman was talking about, which is all the revenue for every school district in the state of South Carolina. And hopefully this analysis will show that that removing charter schools from the state aid to classrooms calculation is going to, not be, it's going to be something that's going to be really challenging to have charter schools continue to operate in the future.
Chance, thank you. And when I saw this report, I sent it to Chance and I talked to him on the phone, and I told him that we need a response to put in legislators' hands. It's not enough to tell people we don't agree with it. We have to give the legislators something in their hand that shows them a different way. So Chance, he's been working on it for about a week and a half. Are you about through with it, Chance?
Yeah, Nick Michael at the district had sent me an email, and I think there's just a couple things I want to, their overall report's about 66 pages long, and right now mine's only 10. So I want to get to at least maybe 10 or 15, add a couple tables, add some, pro forma financial analysis. And I think it's going to be a very good, solid step forward. And I think that, so Mr. Sherman, you also, there is a rebuttal to this already out there, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Palmetto Promise put out a rebuttal to this. You can get this online.
A rebuttal to what? This?
To the 66-page report. Palmetto Promise came up with some of the points that we came up with, but I think it lacks the depth that Chance is doing, the examples, pulling from the actual report and showing from the actual report the discrepancies. So Chance is doing pretty much the same answers that they did, but at a much deeper level with examples pulled from the actual report. I went ahead and told Chris Neely at the district and Kevin Mason for the Alliance that when Chance finishes his report, I'm going to send it to him. And I can't thank Chance enough for taking his time and doing this for us, because we're going to have to be armed with something to give to our legislators to make sure that they understand our position. Now, we can't tell them what to do, but we can make our position known. And I will tell you this, I have been in school districts my whole life. Never have I been in a school board where you put your financials up every day for everybody to see and every month. Local school districts never do that. Charter schools are the only people that put their finances up every month. Anybody can walk in and see our finances and see exactly how we're spending money. Local school districts never do that. We're the only school districts. So this Palmetto Promise, although there's some good things in it, and it's the right start, it's a 2 to 3 page response to a 66-page article with no examples, and we want to make sure that we put some examples to their points so that we get that message out to our legislators. That being said, I've had several legislators in. I have more coming in. I'm trying to talk to as many as I can. I have shared information with our colleagues across the state, hoping that they are talking to their legislators. And board members, it would not hurt you all to call and contact our legislators. Have you sent them that page yet? Katie has a page with every legislator, their name, their number, where you can get a hold of them. She will send it to you. You need to contact them. They need to hear your voice. You're a constituent. They need to hear from you. If they don't hear from you, they're not gonna ask questions. Only gonna ask questions if they hear from you. We can't blame them if we don't do our job and make sure that we let them know this is important to us. Chance, before you leave, are you still there?
Yep, still here.
Will you go over your per pupil square foot example that we talked about?
Oh yeah, just the one thing that I think is going to be an important point to add that I'm working on right now is the fact that when you look at the capital projects, the bond financing, the dollar per square footage that charter schools oftentimes are able to build institutions to be able to have, maximum instructional capacity. The dollar per square footage spent on that just is it's a small percentage of what public school districts end up spending on facilities, and not just the instructional facilities, but also in athletic facilities, in stadiums, and just various other items that they're able to expend taxpayer funds. When you look at that, you can see very clearly that charter schools are more efficient when it comes to every dollar they have to put into square footage that's going to fund, that essentially is instructional capacity. So it's something that I think when you look at that combined with the fact that every dollar that charter schools get is not, with no access to local tax revenue, it has to go to funding those facility costs. And oftentimes those can be 20 to 22% of an overall operational budget, which leaves any decrease in funding. What we're going to find and what I'm going to see is that, you're really locked into what you have to spend for facilities because these bond payments are fixed in nature. What's going to end up happening is it's going to further erode charter schools' ability to be competitive in the market when it comes to salaries and benefits for their instructional and support staff. So,
Chance, I have an example here that the new Spartanburg High, and now that they're rebuilding Burns, both of those properties serve about 2,600 students, and they're worth over $300 million. We do 1,300 students. Our property value is about $32 million, so they're 10 times greater with twice the students. So basically, their facilities, there's 5 times the money put into their facilities that charter schools use. And that to me is a telling sign of where this is going. And if you want to talk about fairness, when you start talking about facilities, it's not even close. Not only do we receive money with less money, but we don't have the bonds, we don't have the ability. And if they're worth $300 million, the average school district can borrow up to 8% of their total value without having to go to the voters. So just off of Spartanburg High alone, they can borrow $24 million and not have to ask anybody for it. The district had it. That's just off of Spartanburg High. When you add all their other schools in, they can borrow a tremendous amount of money to build whatever they need if they have a problem without having to go to the taxpayers and float them. All a bond is a self-imposed tax that people vote.
Is that how District 5's doing that? 'Cause
That
there's
is
not-
how they're doing
There's
it.
not, I live in 5 and we're not.
They shot down all the bonds, so they're doing it off their 8% value.
Don't you
And
have
they're
it
paying
on
it
the,
back.
don't you have it on the ballot this coming Tuesday?
It is, yeah.
They shot it down twice, right, David?
They have.
And so this is the third time
But
they're funding through that.
because when you get the flyers in the mail, it talks about there's no tax increase, there's no.
So when you spend, and Chance is the one that kind of put me onto this idea, when you start looking at the facility issue as well, we have numerous things that when they state they want fairness in this report, I don't see anything fair about what's being done to our kids. And why are our kids not as important as everybody else? Everybody who has a kid here pays taxes. And that taxes is not used for their kids. Why doesn't the money follow the kid? Why are we not getting the money? Why are they getting the money and we're not getting a part of that? When we're taxpayers, just as much as everybody else is. This is the issue that we have, and if we remain silent, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get what's coming to us. You got to be loud and proud.
Brian, when the church school amendment or the church schools act was passed, one of the things that was said is that church schools can do it cheaper than traditional public schools. And that is still true. But it doesn't mean it comes at the expense of the students. Because even if you give that $6,000 variant example, if we got half of that, we could still do it millions of dollars cheaper.
Absolutely.
Millions of dollars cheaper, but we need to have the equipment to do so.
We can't afford to go backwards.
No.
Because talking to Chance, and Chance, tell them what we were talking about, how each year this would get worse for us.
Yeah, it does look like that if this, especially the recommendation, if that were implemented, we would just see, each year slightly more erosion in terms of the revenue per pupil that charter schools would end up getting.
So, Chance, I can't thank you enough for helping us with this. I'm looking forward to seeing the report. I will send it to our board members as soon as you get it to me, and then I will send it to Chris Wheeler. I think you're going to send it to Nick anyway, is that correct?
That's right. Yep, I'll send it to Nick.
And I will send it to Kevin Mason at the Alliance. They have hired a new lobbyist firm down there, and I'm hoping that Kevin said he would take it to them as well and put it in with them to see if, I'm sure they have an attorney and a bean counter in that firm that will be glad to take it and run with this information as well.
Sounds good. Happy to help.
I have a question on the local funds. That would have to go individually for each county district, correct? That's not something that the state legislature could.
The state could mandate they do it, but it would have to go through every county. But the state could mandate whatever they wanted to, but the county would have to figure out that.
They could mandate that local funds can be distributed.
I think the state legislature has the power to do whatever they want. The counties have to report to the state. The state could just withhold their money if they didn't do what they asked them. Because all our money goes to the state and comes back to us. So the state basically has to release every fund they get, regardless of whose hands it flows through. If the state doesn't release it, nobody gets it. And only the legislators can make that decision. And then the governor has to sign it. And if he doesn't, then they can fight over it. I mean, have to move the whole business station. That all happens in Columbia, and we have very little say-so once it gets to that point. We need to speak now before our legislators get in session and they get real busy. We have to have all this information in their hands before all this happens. So they're going to decide this in January, February, because they're not going to start allocations and funding until they know exactly what formula they're going to use. So this is going to be done rather quickly. As soon as the legislation gets back, legislators get back, they're going to be discussing this issue. Chance, you have anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
I think that's it. Then I'll finish this report, get that over to you, get it over to Nick, and then we can get it out there and make sure that we're all on the same page and united front. So.
Thank you, Chance. Appreciate it.
Chance,
Yes.
before you leave, Chance, this is Jenna Joe. I just wanted to say thank you for all your work on the audit, as well as Stephanie, Mr. Sherman, Craig. I know pretty much everybody in here. All your work on the audit, but just really want to thank you for all you did to get that taken care of. So.
Yeah, happy to help. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Greg, you talking, man. I'm tired.
Important dates. We've got Clue on stage coming up. If you have not been down to see the set, they did a great job with it. It's going to be in the Blue Auditorium, so please bring people. We can get you some complimentary tickets, board members, if y'all got people that you can bring to it. And graduation is Thursday, May 21st. That's going to be Memorial Day weekend. Originally it was on Friday. We were worried that people would be out of town, so Thursday.
Do we need to make an amendment to the calendar? The calendar that we approved?
If we have not done so,
I'd like to stop.
that may be why it is on the agenda. I was wondering, because I think we've said it past 3 board meetings. The report cards have been delayed. Basically, some districts reported that in the high school report card, there were some possible errors Mr. Hambrick was very diligent about going back through ours and did find a couple things that need to be reported that are probably going to end up being in our favor. But because of that, the report cards are still considered embargoed, so hopefully in November we'll be able to release those results. We still have access to them. We're still using the data to make decisions and have had it, even though they've been embargoed. We just can't share it. We had our family fun night. This was our second family fun night. That went very well. We had 5 board members that came, so thank y'all for coming. Part of our strategic plan is for us to do family fun night as a fundraiser. Last year we did bring in a little bit of money, but there's a lot of upfront costs with buying some of the games and things like that. This year we raised about $4,400 after PTO helped us out, so we'll start rolling that into fundraising to do some projects around the school. Human resources, we now have someone else with their PhD on staff, and that would be Dr. Cox. Proud of him. I know he's been working on that for a while, so proud of him for accomplishing that. And he's already been putting it to work. We've had him doing a lot with the SC Ready data and breaking it down with the principals. So it's nice to have somebody on staff that we can give that off to. Most of our principals could do it if they had a spare minute to do it. So that was a large part of his doctoral programs, working with data, so we're thankful for him. We do have a high school ELA position that we are interviewing for. We have a teacher that may be leaving us at December by their choice. But we have some really good candidates for that position we are interviewing. And we're also excited to show y'all, we have it as the draft drone video. But basically, when we were redesigning the website, we saw some other schools and organizations that had basically a tour video, a quick tour video that was done, and it had some drone footage in it, amongst some other things. So we reached out to Ridge Media and said, hey, would y'all be able to do this for us? And they said yes, so we will show y'all that video. This is going to end up going on our website. It'll be right on the front, and then it will also be part of our programmatic advertising that pops up as well. So we thought it turned out really well. I will say it was a very long day of walking around getting the footage. My feet were very tired from walking around, but it was also a very encouraging day to see all of the things that our students are doing. So that will go on the website, and then there's also a slightly, the programmatic one was slightly condensed, so we're excited for that. And then the community engagement team. So we have worked to pick out 12 staff members, mostly teachers. Out of the 12, 8 of them are probably teachers, I would say, 6 that are part of our community engagement team. We met with Ross Robinson from Bold Move, who has done some Strength Finders training with us, and he helped us to come up with a really more of a framework of how to start engaging people in our community so that we can let them know about High Point and the things that we're doing here and figure out how we can partner with them. Our goal was to have 50 contacts. I think we're sitting right at 48, so very close to meeting that goal. And then the next step is to start reaching out to those people, seeing what we can do to partner with them. Teacher survey. So again, another part of one of our goals on the strategic plan is to maximize teacher input. One of the ways that we do that is we started sending out a survey at the end of Q1, and then we'll do it again at the end of Q3. So this is the third time that we sent the survey out. For the most part, we keep the questions the same so that we can benchmark the results. We do a little bit of tweaking. One of the biggest positives, dress code, we had 50.6% of our staff rank it a 4 or 5 out of 5. That was compared to 29.3 at the end of last year. So I think we've definitely made some progress in that with streamlining the dress code a little bit and reinforcing it. Cleanliness of the building got 3 out of 4. Again, that was improvement. Previously on the past survey, that was closer to a 2. So we have hired some high school student workers to help with the cleaning after school. We also had a custodian that left us, and when we rehired the position, we moved it to be a 12 to 8 o'clock shift so that we do have somebody that's coming in and cleaning after hours. And that has helped a lot. We also hired Mr. Hopkins last year, at the end of last year around May, and he's just a workhorse. You do not ever see him sitting down, and he's kind of taken on the role of head custodian and has done a good job of making sure that we're working together to get everything done. So that's seeing the results. I talked a little bit with the Building and Grounds Committee before, but the top building request is to redo the parking lot, especially the lighting out front in the mornings. We've got a landscape architect that's working on some designs. Basically, we know that has been a concern, but the reason we've held off is to fix it. We're going to have to dig up the parking lot because the power lines were not running conduit. So if we're going to be out there digging up the parking lot, we want to make sure we're getting everything done that we want to get done, as opposed to digging it up to fix the lights and then a few months later redoing the whole parking lot. So that should be coming this, hopefully this summer, if not a little later. 53% of our staff rated our internal communications as good or very good. Obviously, you always want to see that higher. That was up 3% from last time, and I still think in a school this large, with 3 schools under one roof, 53% scoring that high is pretty strong. And 84.7 rated our external communications as good or very good, and that was up almost 16%. We had some good results there. And then, as I do every year, there's a question on there that says, what's our greatest strength? I just take all of those answers and I lump them into one of those word cloud generators. So the things that pop up the most are students, teachers, school, community, family, arts. I always think it's good that students is one of the largest things that gets repeated as one of our strengths. That we're focused on students and the teachers, and we have quality teachers here. So I thought that was encouraging.
Can I ask you a question? On the communication, I know you use Parent Square for that side of stuff. Do you have any kind of internal, or you just use email?
Just email. We can Parent Square the staff. We can send the messages that way, but for the most part, we use email. Still the one that we continue to work on is it's just such a big building. There's so much going on that it's hard to know. Maybe something's going on in elementary, and the elementary staff knows about it, but the high school staff doesn't. Sometimes people don't want to know what the high school's doing if it's not their area. Some people do. Kind of balancing that part of it. And that may be it.
That's it for today. That is my report. It was exhilarating for me. I hope you found it as exhilarating as I did.
Thank you very much. Lots of great stuff on it, a lot of things to think about. We are gonna move on to another school business. We do need to amend the academic calendar for the graduation date.
Make a motion.
One second. Okay, you can making sure the graduation date is correct. Yes. Public comments. The official meeting of the board is by law a public meeting, and the board values citizen input. However, in order to protect the integrity of the agenda, public dialogue is restricted to the public comment section of the agenda, or as directed by the board chair. Our folks have indicated they would like to speak. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Speakers may not ask questions of board members. Board members may not engage in discussion. Disruptive behavior by any person in attendance at the meeting is not permitted. Personal attacks aimed at students or staff are not permitted. Scurrilous, obscene, or recklessly defamatory language aimed at any board member is not permitted, which we have never said anything. So we appreciate that. Thank you for being here tonight. We welcome your comments, and I'm going to put a timer on for the 3 minutes just to keep up with that. All right, thank you.
Julie, you're first.
My husband and I were traveling beginning of the month, and we went through Charleston, West Virginia, and I picked up the local paper, and there was just some interesting articles in there. One was about mental health awareness, but it sounds like we've got a good bit of that covered. And also about reading aloud and having a workshop for kids to learn how to be podcasters and be storytellers. So I just made some copies if you want to share. That's really all I wanted to.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that.
It's interesting reading these small town newspapers.
Yeah. Do we still have the, Ms. Lester, do we still have the elementary, what was that program?
They've done it twice this year.
Twice this year, yeah.
Twice this year.
It's not as often.
Good job, Buster.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Two. I have something I'd like to say too. Can I get my own 3 minutes?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to reset. Okay.
I may run long and take over some of Julie's, because I had originally wanted to come and thank you for something that the school is doing for my youngest grandchild, Eric. But after listening to everything that's going on in the state, I am experiencing a little bit of disturbance, frustration, I think you guys all share. And I think there's another, all of what you're doing is very good, but I wanted to take what I was going to say, thank you for, and turn it into a story, because if the funding gets changed, what you guys are doing will be lost for Julie and I. My son Eric is grandson Eric is ADD, I mean reading ADD. Okay. And you folks have been very helpful and very supportive in all of that. Now there's a further complication, because both Eric and Drake's mother, their mother will be, is it Thursday coming? They'll find out how long she's been sentenced to prison for meth and various other things.
Mr. Combs, you do know this is live stream. Go ahead.
No, but I did not realize that, but that does not present a problem.
Okay, great reminder, because,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
No, I did, but it does not slow me down or stop me. It usually takes a break to the back of the head. But anyway, what happens is the school has marshaled counseling resources to support those two boys. And we know from experience with my son Drake, who was in public school, a grandson, up through the end of middle school, such resources are simply not available in a public school. And I wonder if we couldn't turn this into a story to circulate to the legislators.
You, by all means, can circulate that story. You have a legislator right here who's your constituent, because this is her school, so by all means, you can contact her.
Well, we're in Greenville County, so it's somebody different, but that's okay.
But your kids go here,
Yes.
your grandkids go here.
And finally, a little share to reflect in glory. Miss Tabernetti is our great niece. So, well, it's on the book. Right? But I just, thank you.
Appreciate you sharing that. I also commend our special ed program. It's a testament to what charter schools do, because we're doing it with less and resources like that.
A final observation, the efficiency of the school has always impressed me. And the example that he gave about the efficiency of facilities is kind of near and dear to my heart, because I provide software to manage facilities. But the other thing I think that needs to be brought out is the efficiency of the teachers and all of the things they do. You guys do 10 times as much with the money you get. So, whereas a lot of the new high schools that are being built, they're all palaces. Okay, now I will stop.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Please don't stop. Please direct it towards the legislature.
I would like to get a copy of that list of legislators that you mentioned.
Yes, we'd like to
And then we'll
We
take
can,
Congress.
I can get that printed for you tonight.
In that vein, if I may have a moment. So when you're talking about contacting your legislators, that's absolutely, you do that. You're gonna wanna target the education committee, and you can find that on the public website on who all's on there and their numbers as well. Not just the 7 of you. You need to get some parents engaged. As many, and you can send as many emails as you want, but phone calls make the difference. Showing up in our offices make a difference, but again, that's not till January, we're not in our offices. So as few as 25 phone calls about the same topic will get a legislator thinking about something, especially if you target the people on the education committee. I am not on that committee, but I do have several friends on that committee. So yeah, that's my recommendation. If you get some parents involved, every teacher takes 2 seconds to make a phone call, write out a script if they don't feel comfortable. Be kind, because our sweet legislative aides answer the phones, not us, typically, unless y'all have a cell phone, which you have. But, just make sure that when you do it, it's not out of anger, but with good solid facts, with kindness, and that goes a long way. And I return every phone call that's made to my office or my cell phone. Not every legislator does that, but I do that.
That is true.
That is
true.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation. So if you don't have a list already, I can get you that list, and I can figure out where the charter schools, so you can find out who's on the subcommittee as well. And you target those people and be kind but relentless. And you can get people to at least stop this from happening, if not change the formula. And then I would say, if you live in the county, start targeting your county council people. They control the majority of the funds, and if you call them, it won't take 25 phone calls to each one of them. It'll take 10, but I would still get as many people. That's my encouragement to you, just being behind the curtain, behind the scenes, seeing how things work. So thank you for letting me just share that with y'all.
Great information for us to have.
I think we just need a motion to move to executive session.
I'll move for a decision. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
All right. Good night.
Tom? How are you? I'll be your dog. Talk to you. See you. I'm back in my, life is good. It's still not bad.